I must have made many mistakes. Among them is I tried to appoint people who would take over from me, but from the very beginning, from the time when Musa Hitam was my deputy, I had problem. After they were appointed, they changed color. The same thing happened when I was thinking about Anwar succeeding me. Then he was too impatient, and he started going against me. So in the end, of course, he has some personal problem, and he was out of the party. But then I had to appoint Abdullah. Abdullah was not my supporter. He was supporting Tunku Razali when Razali was contesting against me. But I still gave him a chance. Unfortunately, the moment he took over, he threw out all my policies and devised his own. And in many instances, there were evidence of corruption. Of course, I thought that I did a good job getting rid of him to give it to Najib. But as you know, when Najib becomes a prime minister, he was worse than anybody else. So that is my regret. I don't seem to be able to choose the right people.
In April 2009, Dr. Mahathir returned to UMNO and was joyfully welcomed by Najib Razak. It was a meaningful gesture for Najib, since this would prove that his administration is about to get the blessing and political backing from Dr. Mahathir. Not long after that, Najib Razak supporters began to alert and warn him upon the Mahathirism. They were worried Dr. Mahathir would return to control Najib as he did to Abdullah Badawi. Looking at his views published in the blog, books, speeches, and elsewhere during these early days of returning to UMNO, Dr. Mahathir seemed to be satisfied with the leadership change from Abdullah Badawi to Najib Razak. He appeared to return to his real position as a respected statesman who is not going to meddle with the job of his successor. By this time, he was seen to spend more time in writing and sharing views at conferences, seminars and dialogues, and looking after the Perdana Leadership Foundation. His observations on all emerging issues and subjects continued to attract people to read, contemplate and discuss. Before the 13th general election, Dr. Mahathir had expected Najib Razak to win the election, but feared that Najib's performance would be far worse than Abdullah in 2008 general election. Looking at the escalating supports for opposition parties at that time, especially with Anwar as their leader and strongly supported by DAP and PAS, Dr. Mahathir felt that Najib Razak is going to face a very tough fight. He, however, could not see the opposition coalition would be good for the country because of their different ideologies and goals. Dr. Mahathir's concern turned out to be true. Najib Razak performed worse than Abdullah Badawi. His party won the election but fewer seats than Abdullah. Najib managed to win only 133 out of 222 seats. 11 seats short from Abdullah, who managed to win 144 seats in 2008 election. Popular votes reduced from 51.39% to 47.38%.
A celebration of sorts for Malaysia's Barisan Nasional coalition. Already the world's longest ruling coalition now returned to power for another term. But the victory wasn't as big as it had hoped. Some big names lost their seats, and Malaysia's ethnic Chinese all but abandoned the coalition, swinging decisively to the opposition Pakatan Rakyat.
Did weakening support for UMNO and Barisan Nasional due to the rejection of the people towards race-based parties? This was an emerging question before and after the 13th general election. The lower vote margin gained by UMNO and Barisan Nasional was interpreted by many observers as clear evidence of Chinese rejection upon Barisan Nasional and other race-based parties including MCA and NYC. Najib Razak and UMNO leaders blamed the Chinese. Utusan Malaysia, the UMNO-owned daily, printed on its headline the day after the election, "Apa lagi China mahu? What more do the Chinese want?" In its editorial column, the Daily accused the Chinese community of actively working towards the removal of Malay political power. This spirit was shared by Najib and other UMNO leaders. Dr. Mahathir, on the other hand, did not see racism as the main reason for Najib's poor performance. He had also rejected the idea that Malaysians were beginning to distance away from race-based parties. Instead, he maintained that the race factor will continue to dominate Malaysian politics. He said, "I believe that racial polarization in Malaysia had become more pronounced now than ever before. I may not always be right, but after 60 years of involvement in Malaysian politics, I felt strongly that the race factor will continue to dominate the politics of the country. The quality of the candidates or parties, the ideologies, and the desire for change will always be secondary to race." Several months of serving Najib Razak's leadership in UMNO, Dr. Mahathir concluded that the party was already in a dire need of reform from within. The most serious problem was the corruption infected almost the whole party. It was rooted in almost all practices, from the leadership to ordinary members, and had even infected non-members among the voters during the election. Dr. Mahathir had shown his clear conscience to trigger the awareness of UMNO leaders and members on this issue. He dared to be unpopular because of efforts to spread this awareness. He strongly reminded the leaders and members to change this situation. They should look back at the past glory of the party, how honesty and integrity practiced by the predecessors had ensured the survival of UMNO. People continued to support the party and its struggle because of the sincerity of the leaders. Observing Najib Razak's leadership, Dr. Mahathir had sensed some rooms of improvement. He did offer some comments and constructive views. He was highly concerned about giving away the race-based politics and submitted to the so-called new idea of multiracial liberal politics through One Malaysia concept. For him, this so-called new idea was an old version of a DAP concept of Malaysian Malaysia, intended to promote equality among all races based on merit without considering the real state of each race. They could call it equal and fair share, but it was indeed unfair since some races, especially the Malays and Indians, were far behind in almost everything compared to the Chinese. By August 2014, Dr. Mahathir had already sent a strong message to the public on many wrong things about Najib's administration. When people accused him of disparaging Najib Razak's administration, he could not say more than fully agree with them. He further explained his point. A leader who is immune to the criticism would always believe that everything about him is alright. If that is the case, then he would never correct his mistakes. For him, his criticism did not reflect his hatred towards the leader, instead representing his great concern over the people and the country. Thorough observation on Dr. Mahathir's perspective during this time pointed towards his efforts to diagnose the problems related to the performance of the ruling party in two past general elections. The first was the poor performance of Abdullah Badawi's leadership in the 2008 general election, and the second was the poorer performance of Najib Razak's leadership in the 2013 general election. In his early analysis, Dr. Mahathir had concluded that Abdullah's weak leadership was among the most possible reason for the poor performance of the ruling party in the 2008 general election. Abdullah resigned and replaced by Najib. The problem solved. Unfortunately, Najib's performance in the 2013 general election was poorer than Abdullah. Since 2010, 1MDB fund appeared in news through its charity programs of giving away scholarships and educational grants to students, as well as sponsoring local imams and leaders to perform Hajj. Unfortunately, by September 2014, something was not right about 1MDB activities, as it came to the surface through some reports. Najib loyalists began to show their dissatisfaction over the reports and continued to defend the fund activities. Since 1MDB issues came to the surface in the late 2014, it didn't go away from Dr. Mahathir's radar. He continued to study and get more information about this so-called mysterious sovereign wealth fund. Over time, he was also continued to share his concern with the public and the media. His views, however, did not go unchallenged. Najib loyalists began to attack and undermine him through social media and blogs. He was not surprised and regarded the attack as politically motivated, intended to cover the wrongdoings of their leader. By this time, Dr. Mahathir did not hide his dissatisfaction over 1MDB issues anymore and declared withdrawal of support towards Najib. 1MDB was one of the main reasons. He said, "I have openly stated I do not support Datuk Sri Najib, and one of the many reasons why I don't support is the creation of 1MDB. Borrowed money cannot be regarded as wealth, and there are many things done with 1MDB money that are just plain wrong. The government should not be indulging in buying and selling shares to make money for itself. I disagree with the 1MDB, and I will continue to criticize it and anything that I think is detrimental to the good governance of this country."
He was totally responsible for 1MDB. Nothing can be done without his signature, and we have his signature on all the deals entered into 1MDB. Therefore, he is responsible. We have the checks, we have the letters signed by him, so he cannot say that I had nothing to do with it. Well, embezzlement, stealing government money, losing government money, and a number of other charges. Using government money to bribe, all those things.
I didn't benefit from the 1MDB because I believe that the 1MDB was, created to do something good for the country.
On February 29, 2016, Dr. Mahathir finally announced his resignation from UMNO effective immediately. The Star Online, February 29, 2016 reported. He said that he made the decisions in light of UMNO's support for the actions of Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Razak. Among the reasons are the 2.6 billion ringgit Malaysia and One Malaysia Development Berhad issues. The organisation that is led by Najib today is no longer the UMNO which was founded on May 11th in 1946, Dr. Mahathir said. By early August 2016, Dr. Mahathir and some former UMNO leaders, including the former Deputy Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin and Kedah Menteri Besar Mukhlis Mahathir, had already formed a pro-term committee to register a new party called Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia, or PPBM, or Malaysian United Indigenous Party. Dr. Mahathir was highly anticipated this new party to carry the torch of Save Malaysia slogan, restore the rule of law and democracy, fight the corruption, and work collaboratively with others to improve the standard of living in the country. On March 20th, 2017, Dr. Mahathir Parti PPBM or Bersatu had been officially accepted into the opposition pact of Pakatan Harapan. It was a significant move by Dr. Mahathir not only for his new party but also for the opposition pact. The willingness of the opposition parties to accept Bersatu, so much so accepting him into their pact, was amazing, since for the first time they will have to work with their long political arch-enemy to save the country. Another important milestone achieved by Dr. Mahathir and the opposition pact was the formation of a formal alliance among opposition. This new opposition pact was officially registered and will contest the 14th general election under one banner, logo and manifesto. No one could imagine that Anwar Ibrahim and his supporters were able to detach their past memories of a strong animosity towards Dr. Mahathir. So much so that the other three opposition leaders, Lim Kee Siang, Muhammad Sabu and Lim Kuan Eng. Polling day of May the 9th, 2018 was the most memorable moment for all Malaysians who voted for the change. Although they would have to wait longer than usual to know the result, waiting proved to be worthy of everything. At 4:40 a.m. on the May 10th, 2018, Election Commission Chairman Tan Sri Muhammad Hashim Abdullah announced that Pakatan Harapan had achieved a simple majority in Parliament to form the next federal government. Dr. Mahathir teamed the coalition of Parti Pribumi Bersatu, PKR, DAP and Parti Amanah Negara had won 113 seats. Najib Razak teams of Barisan Nasional managed to win only 79 seats. PAS had won 18 seats, followed by Parti Warisan Sabah with 8 seats and Parti Solidarity Tanah Airku 1 seat. 3 independent candidates were also won the seats. For the first time since 1955, the Barisan Nasional was defeated.
At a park in Kuala Lumpur, supporters of the opposition alliance gathered as counting began, not knowing what the night would bring. But as unofficial results started to come in, the growing anticipation of a major political upset.
This is mother of all election and is the father of all leaders. Thank you so much.
Then, on a crackly video link, an appearance by the de facto leader of this opposition movement, the former Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad.
For unofficial counting, that they are left far behind. And the likelihood is that they will not be forming the government.
As news began to sink in about what was happening at election counts around the country, so the crowd in this park has swelled, the mood turning to one of euphoria. The expectation that 61 years of continuous rule by the same party could be coming to an end on this one extraordinary night.
Tonight is a great day. The riot, the people, power is won.
I wish that everybody can see this history at this moment.
It's a fantastic, the moment I cannot forget.
Mahathir now prepares to be sworn back into office, a 92-year-old leader taking his country on a new, unprecedented course.